She totally saved my life. She saved Annie's life. If she was not with us, we would not be here. I would not be here telling the story.
Dog people, thanks for coming back to Rescued by a Dog, the podcast about dogs that have actually saved their owners' lives. I'm Laura, and as I've told you, this season of the podcast is entirely listener supported. There are 2 super easy ways to support the podcast for as little as $5. First, you could just Venmo me $5 or whatever amount you want to send, 10, 100, also good, at the handle LauraBama. That's Laura, B as in boy, A, M as in mother, A. Or you can go to patreon.com/Rescued by a Dog podcast. When you join the Rescued by a Dog community on Patreon, your $5 a month will help me to continue sharing these uplifting, beautiful stories. If you can't contribute, it's also super helpful if you can give the podcast 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen. Or you can like and share posts from the podcast Instagram page. Now today, here's an incredible story from Claire, who wouldn't be here today if her pup Bronwyn hadn't been there the day she ran into a mama grizzly on the trail. Oh, you're unmuted. Hi.
Hi, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I am not very tech savvy.
Okay.
And I have no kids here to help me with this at the moment.
That's okay. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to hear your story. So, Claire, what is the name of the dog that we're going to talk about today, and what did she look like?
Bronwyn. Bronwyn is her name. She was a pit bull, red-nosed pit bull. She weighed 54, 56 pounds, depending. And very, very sweet. She had human eyes, you know. She just had these big brown eyes that she would just look at you with. Sometimes, you know, animals are better than humans, so maybe I shouldn't say she had human eyes. But she had a way of looking at you, like she would lift up her eyebrow all the time. And, she, you know, if her head was on the ground, she wouldn't lift up her head to look at something. She would just move her eyes back and forth. Her eyebrows would go up. We live in Alaska. She loved the mountains, absolutely loved the mountains. She loved the snow. She loved when it snowed.
How did you find her?
She was, my son had her since she was a puppy. So she was actually my son's dog, but I used to take her all the time. My husband never liked dogs. And at that time, I allowed that.
At what point did you take her in yourself?
Well, so we used to have her a lot. My daughter and I we're big mountain runners here. And it was June 15th, I'll never forget it, June 15th, 2017. And we had her at the house and we were going for a run up the mountain in the morning. My daughter was going and she asked me if I wanted to go and I said, sure. So we had Bronwyn with us and we went up the mountain behind our house. It's a 1.5 miles up the mountain. It's pretty steep, but you know, Bronwyn loved Bear Mountain. She loved going up Bear Mountain. It's called Bear Mountain, which is kind of funny, really. And we went for a run up the mountain. Nobody's up there. It's quiet. We go way back on the, back the trail a bit, get to the top and run back and took some pictures and came back down. Just a normal run. And we were about 2/3 of the way down the mountain and we're running. We're not running fast, but we're running, Bronwyn is in front and then there's me and then Annie is behind me and, just like right behind me. And it was so fast. It was so fast. I saw a bear right there. She was right there. The bear stood up on her 2 legs. People have said before, time slows down for just a few seconds, seems like, minutes. And I saw the bear, I saw a cub immediately and I knew we're in trouble. And it was a grizzly bear. I'd never actually seen a bear on that mountain. I've run that mountain for years. And it was called Bear Mountain, but I'd never seen one up there. And I saw the bear, And I immediately said, I don't know where it came from. I immediately said to Annie, dial 911, because I knew we're going to get it. So I saw one cub, and the bear, is coming towards us. And all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, so the bear's within 15 feet of me and Annie. And we're just standing there. I'm just like standing because there's nothing you can do. And all of a sudden, like I said, it just happened so fast but so slow. Bronwyn goes for the bear. Bronwyn goes for the bear, which gave us enough. It just gave us that split second to get back, to go back up the mountain, which it was awful because I felt like I was abandoning Bronwyn. She did scream, and that's when I lost it. It was just like a scream, like a howl, not a howl, like a yelp, but a yelp sounds so little. It was so much more than a yelp. I can't take on a bear I can't. The bear will, the bear's going to kill you because the bear's doing what the bear is supposed to do. I don't blame the bear. She's protecting her cubs. She sees two humans coming down and we surprised her. We made no noise, our fault. We had no bear spray. For living in Alaska for all these years, we should have known better. We go back up the mountain, and the whole time, so Annie's on the phone with 911. 911 are not going to come and rescue us because we're not dead or injured, But so we just don't know what to do. So we just go up the mountain. Annie, my daughter at the time, she was 17 or 18. And she's very calm. She's on the phone with 911. She's dead calm. I am hysterical because all I can think of is Bronwyn is either dead or dying, and we left her and she's just laying there and she's abandoned. So the whole way up the mountain, I was just completely hysterical. I was screaming, I was calling her name. I was screaming, just like totally crazy. I called my friend who lives at the base of the mountain, and I'm like, okay, she has a gun. Her husband's a hunter. Maybe they could come up and help us, Well, she's home. He's not at home. And then my phone died. We're in the trees. We go up high. We get into an area where there's not a lot of trees, so we can kind of see what's going on. And what are we going to do? How are we going to get back down this mountain? About 40 minutes had elapsed. We were sitting there, and Annie had said, Mom, stop calling Bronwyn because maybe she's alive and injured and she's only going to try and come to us. So if you keep calling her, she will probably try to come and she could be injured. So I stopped calling her. And all of a sudden, it was like that movie, Homeward Bound. We're on the mountain in the clearing, sitting there, and we see Bronwyn coming up the mountain to us. She's covered in blood. So I don't know, she's bleeding internally. So we're on the phone with 911. We said, look, we got to go. And we're like, we got to get her down. She's bleeding. We got to get her down. But, we're also like the bear, So we just said, we got to go. And at that point, she was heavy. She weighed 69 pounds back then. So anyway, we carry her down the mountain. And so I pick her up, we're walking down, so we tag team. So Annie and it's very steep in that area. Annie would go in front of me and I'd pass her to Annie, and then I'd go in front of Annie and she'd pass her to me, and that's how we got her down. But in the meantime, we're throwing stones ahead of us and making noise because we want to make sure the bear is gone. And we're making noise, but her tail was wagging. She wanted to chase the stones we were throwing. Me and Annie were laughing, we were nervous laughing. We were laughing at Bronwyn, wagging her tail, wanting to chase the stones.
So she wasn't scared?
Not at all. It probably took about 25 minutes to get back down. And we get part where, we get almost all the ways down and 911 are there. I was carrying her and the bleeding side, she was against me. So when I got down there and my friends were there and the police, I was covered in blood. And I just had to be like, no, this is not my blood. And my friends are there. My friend had called the vet and said, hey, we have my friend on the mountain with a bear, got attacked by a bear. We will be coming in. So we immediately drive to the vet, which is about 20 minutes away, and bring her in. He's ready for her. He's waiting. Gets her all cleaned up. We're sitting in the waiting room, not realizing the magnitude of what had happened in one sense. So we're sitting there for a couple of hours, a bunch of us waiting for Bronwyn. She recovered. She had a couple of tubes in her and she recovered.
Can you describe to me the first moment that you saw her again after they fixed her up in the hospital?
Yeah, she was so drugged up. Oh my God, she was just high as a kite. And she was just smiling and happy and drugged in her tail. It could generate electricity. She wagged it so hard and so much. And she was just so happy to be, hey, what's going on, No idea what she did. And we took her home. After the surgery, she didn't have any internal bleeding. So we think what happened was the bear swiped at her, got her collar a little bit. Her collar was chewed a little bit. And obviously we'll never know. Maybe 2 weeks after the accident, my husband said, when is the dog going home? And I looked at him and I said, she is home. And that's how we ended up keeping her. And she just kind of reawakened everything in us, in me. I was always an animal person all my life. Grew up with dogs and horses and, and I got married and had kids and, life just, took its way with me and, it's good. There's nothing bad. But I just seemed to stray from being an animal person. I remember my boss saying to me one day, a couple of months after the incident, people would come in with dogs or something, and I would be all over the dogs. And he said, Claire, I never knew you were a dog person. And it hit me. I was like, oh my God, I've always been a dog person. And clearly I got away from it. Dogs find you. I always think dogs, not all dogs, but a lot of dogs will find a person. And Bronwyn was very special. When I'd go over there, she would always come over and sit right by me, it's like she knew one day, I'm going to get you. You're mine. All along, she knew I was her person. I would be forever grateful for that incident on the mountain because that's what got us Bronwyn. She totally saved my life. She saved Annie's life. She physically saved my life, but also just having her, I don't want to go into it too much, but she changed me back to who I was. And she changed our whole family. She changed our whole family dynamics. She died on May 4th, 2023. And, she was 13 and a half. Everybody loved Bronwyn. Everybody. She went everywhere I went. She loved going up the mountain, even just getting in the car. And as soon as you started to go uphill in the car, she'd get so excited in the back of the car because she knew we're going up a mountain. We've gone back up that mountain. It took me a while to go back up there. It took me a long time to go back up there. But nothing. She came up there with us and it's like it never happened. When I'd come home from work, she'd stand at the top of the stairs and she'd go from one paw to the other and she would smile. Her lip would curl up. She was so happy. Her tail would be going, but it was like she just was like trying to show me, I am so happy to see you. If I was gone somewhere for like 15 minutes and came back, she would do that. We'd go up the mountain, me and her, the different mountain mile high, and we'd pick blueberries. We'd sit there. Sometimes I'd just sit there and we wouldn't pick it all, and I'd take picture upon picture upon picture of her, and she'd eat the berries. Sometimes she'd eat some blueberries. She'd either eat some of the ones I picked or she'd go over and just pick them off the bush herself.
If Bronwyn were here with us now and she understood human English, what would you like to say to her?
How much I love her, and I want to thank her, and how much I miss her. Nobody has loved me as much as Bronwyn. I hope I'll see her again. I know I'll see her again.